Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And Chelsea are back in action after two horrendous results following on from the 4-2 defeat at home to Wolves on Sunday, a tough trip to Villa Park in the FA Cup fourth round replay. And it's got a feel of Mauricio Pochettino being a little bit of a dead man walking. It could be the last dance potentially if we get eliminated. Subsequently, since the replay, Chelsea have had two poor results. Villa lost at home to Newcastle, then bounced back with a resounding 5-0 win at Sheffield United to kind of get themselves back on track again. And yeah, truth be told, I've got no confidence going into this game. But to discuss the game, FA Cup, Villa, Chelsea, all things the match itself, delighted to be joined once again by Luke from Up the Villa podcast. Mate, we've been catching up quite a lot recently. There's been a lot of games between the sides, and we've still got one more after this one to go this season. First things first, mate, the original game, how did you see that one? I mean, we were chatting off there, and obviously I was saying to you, like, realistically, for the first 65, 70 minutes, I thought we were very good. I thought we outclassed you. I thought we dominated large parts of the game. Particularly first half, I thought Villa were surprisingly poor from what I was expecting from them. But then last 20 minutes, we dropped off a little bit. And arguably, if it wasn't for a couple of good saves from Petrovic, you could have got out of there with a 1-0.
Yeah, it was after that break for Villa. We had our sort of winter break, and we thought we were going to come back all guns firing. Around sort of that period, we weren't sort of bang at it, and I always sort of wanted us to come into that game, sort of be back with a bang, and it wasn't to be from us really. And like you say, first half, I thought you were fantastic, and we were miles off it. And towards the end of the game, we grew into it. We got a bit stronger. And then we sort of had Newcastle, and we were absolutely terrible then. So it feels like that defeat to Newcastle was a blessing, that it's sort of one of those where it just had to happen, and then we can just bounce back, get it out of our system, and sort of regroup and sort of get ready for the next part of the season, really. But yeah, it wasn't great from Villa, and yeah, hopefully we're better on Wednesday.
No, I hope not from my perspective, but yeah, I can't imagine you putting in another performance at home in consecutive games like the one against Newcastle. I mean, you touched on it there. Obviously, like, all records come to an end eventually, and you had to lose at home at some point. What disappointed you most about that game? And do you think there's anything in that game that Chelsea can potentially take a little bit of hope from what Newcastle did or from what Villa didn't do? Or do you think it's very much kind of just a one-off and one of those days where you just turn up and nothing really goes right?
I mean, as a Villa fan, our form was stuttering but without losing. So I think it was the Friday before Christmas, we had the chance to go top of the league going into Christmas, and we drew 1-1 with Sheffield United. So it all sort of started from there, really. Then on Boxing Day, we lost to Man United. We were 2-0 up. Then we beat Burnley, but we stuttered to that at home. Followed that up with a 0-0 against Everton. Poor against you guys. So our form was, although we weren't losing, we were just weren't the Villa that we'd seen this season. So that loss, I think, possibly helped us a little bit. And then we go and batter Sheffield United on Saturday, and we played really, really well. And, even though it's Sheffield United, it was a difficult game because, they'd have thought that they could beat us. They'd already took a point off us, fighting for their lives, knew that Villa were a bit of a wounded animal, and we put in a real top performance. So, yeah, it was pleasing that we won on Saturday. But against Newcastle, we were way off it, from our standards, as watching us this season, we were just flat. They pressed us. Our shape of our team was all over the place. We couldn't get a grip on the ball in midfield. So, yeah, it was just a very bad performance, something that, like, what we've not been performing like at home. So, like you said earlier as well, like, this is our next game being back at Villa Park, and, Emery's going to want to sort of get back on track at home, and then we've got United on Sunday. So two big games at home for us, really, and kind of like a defining week. If we can go through and beat you guys, we've got Plymouth or Leeds, win them, you're in the quarterfinal. So, you're in the quarterfinal, a game away from a semi-final at Wembley. So I think it's a big game, and a game that I think, both teams ideally need to win.
Mate, it's a massive incentive, that home draw against, no disrespect to Leeds or Plymouth, but it's a home draw that you would expect to be winning. And so there's that incentive there to go for it even more now. I mean, obviously, it's always going to be there, but if it was like a Man City away or something, you sort of be thinking, well, maybe we could probably do without that. Maybe not that we play to lose, but you think, oh, if we went out, it wouldn't be a disaster. But now you're looking at it and you're thinking, right, a championship side at home, as you say, and then you're into the quarterfinals and draw dependent. You know, you're one game away from a semi-final at Wembley, and suddenly things can open up very quickly. A couple of players I wanted to touch on, mate. Obviously, Ollie Watkins seems to be back in some very good form. I think a couple of goals, or a goal and a few assists, or whatever it was, against Sheffield United. How important is he going to be in this game on Wednesday? I feel like when we played you in the league back at the Bridge in September, whenever it was, I think that was his first goal of the season or something. And then from there, he's been on a bit of a roll, and he's really crucial to you, essentially. And he is the main man at the top end of the pitch.
Yeah, he's class. I mean, you know, so far this season in the Premier League, 11 goals, 10 assists. You know, those numbers are incredible combined, and we're not even at the end of the season. So, you know, when he's firing and when he's ticking and when he's like fully motoring, at times he's unplayable. Like against Sheffield United, he was unplayable. Like he was dropping deep, hold up, playing in Bailey. Hold-up play was brilliant. You know, he's deadly at times. You know, his finish the other day was brilliant. And yeah, he's absolutely crucial. So when he's on it, he's unbelievable. But he does have, you know, patches during a season where he can go quiet for sort of 6 games. And then he sort of has another flurry of, say, 7 games where he'll score 7 goals and get loads of assists. So he's a player that he goes on little patches, and now he's got 2 in 2 on this little patch of goal scoring. So yeah, he's crucial, really. But you know, him and Bailey, you know, Bailey's another one who's pretty crucial to us at the minute on that right hand side. So yeah, he's a. I don't know. What do you think about Watkins? Because you know, as a Villa fan, I don't think he gets the credit that sort of he deserves, really. You know, that bracket of striker. But what do you think about him?
Mate, do you know what? Like, I obviously don't see as much of him as you do, of course, but I do think he's underrated. I think he's probably underappreciated as well. Like obviously Aston Villa could be a Champions League club next season, massive club. But I look at Watkins and I think he's someone that wouldn't look out of place playing for an Arsenal or playing for, you know, a Spurs or whatever it might be. He's certainly capable of playing for Champions League caliber club. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. He's a great finisher. He finds himself in the right place at the right times at times. And I think, you know, with England as well, with there being sort of no glaringly obvious sort of next one in line to Harry Kane. Yes, you got Ivan Toney, but obviously he's only been capped once or whatever. I think he's a superb player. But Watkins is definitely can step up and perform in Kane's absence for England potentially. Obviously, you'd have to change things around a little bit. He's not the same profile of player as Kane. But mate, I think he's very, very good and someone that, as you say, on his day is absolutely unplayable. So it's someone that Chelsea will absolutely have to be aware of. Another player you mentioned, Leon Bailey. If I'm right, it's either him or Diaby. Is it Bailey that's going to sign a new contract?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bailey's signing a new contract. So
how big's that? Because I remember when he first come in from Leverkusen, like he was a little bit hit and miss, but certainly this season, maybe back in the last season, I can't quite remember, but he's definitely upped his form and looking like he's well worth the money you paid for him. Are you glad to see the club tying down key players to sort of long-term deals?
Yeah, it's massive, really. I mean, when Bailey first came in on his debut, he came on, literally had this volley from outside the 18-yard box. It was like, who's this player? Because he was a Grealish replacement. So he came in when we sold Grealish. So we signed Danny Ings, Leon Bailey, and Buendia in that window. So he was one of those ones that were replacing Grealish. And he saw like flurries of form, like you'd look at him and think, God, you should be so much better than this. Like you've got so much more ability, and you'd be frustrated. And he had a lot of injuries, and then ever since Emery's come in, he's literally transformed him. Like before Emery, he seemed to like show the defender the ball too much. So it was really weird when you watched him. Like he'd show the ball to like the fullback, and the fullback would always win the ball off him. But now he's literally like, I can't see which way he's going to go. He's like jinking, turning, skill. Like he's so good now. Emery's literally transformed him, and he's one of our most crucial players now because his goals and assists as well. And he doesn't really start that many games. He's been coming off the bench quite a lot, and his numbers off the bench. I mean, he's averaging a goal every 70. He's averaging a goal or an assist every 78 minutes for Villa at the minute. Which, I mean, it's like them numbers are mad.
I mean, you're well stocked in those wide areas as well. Obviously you've got Bailey, Diaby, obviously Zaniolo, who's on loan. You brought in Morgan Rogers from Middlesbrough, who looks like a good player. We've got Buendia to come back. Would you like? I mean, I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure Bailey and Diaby don't tend to start together that often. No. Is that something, as Villa fans yourself, is that something you'd like to see more of? Them two starting together, either side of Ollie Watkins, or do you think that sort of upsets the balance a little bit that Emery's got going there? Because for some reason, I would have thought it might be obvious to play them both together with Watkins. But I mean, why do you think Emery doesn't tend to do that much? And is that something, as a Villa fan, you'd like to see a bit more of?
Yeah, so I mean, the reason why they don't play it that often is basically, if you look at Villa's formation, it's generally a 4-2-2-2. So you'd have a double pivot in the two of Luiz and Kamara. Then you'd have two in front of that would be either McGinn and Tielemans. And then you've got the two up top would be Watkins and Diaby, or Watkins and Bailey. So if you play both of them together, it's quite attacking in the sense of you're losing like a midfield player, basically. At home, he does it quite a lot. So he'll go like Watkins, Diaby, and then Bailey will go out wide and drop, and then Diaby will go into a box midfield. So that's how our system generally works. So it's a lot more attacking. So generally, it's one or the other. So, if it's Diaby, he'll go next to Watkins and then float out wide and vice versa, really. But we're yet to see like the Leverkusen, Bailey and Diaby and that link up. We've only seen it sort of like fluttering, like not too many occasions. It's really worked out that way. So Diaby's in a bit of a dip in form, really. So it's interesting to see who he's going to. I'd imagine it's going to be Diaby. I imagine Bailey will be on the bench as well, I think, and I think he'll save Bailey for Sunday.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't really. I don't think it tends to matter who it is at the moment. I think we're leaking so many goals. They're bound to have some joy, and obviously, the options you've got are these are top quality international players now. Like whoever plays is going to cause Chelsea problems. Hopefully, there's been reports that we're considering switching to a back three, something that I called for, like certainly after the Liverpool game and again after the Wolves game, just to give us a bit more defensive solidity. Thiago Silva, phenomenal player, but 39 going on 40, he gets caught out in a back four. He was exposed badly against Wolves. So we went to a three. That would probably, maybe help us be a bit more defensively solid. Maybe be a bit more difficult for you guys to break down. But at the other end of the pitch for you, how big a blow is it Ezri Konsa out? Obviously not as serious as first thought, but he's going to be out for a few weeks. Is that a big blow for Villa, considering Mings is not back yet either, is he? So who's likely to step in at centre half?
Oh, mate, it's a big blow. It's a big blow. So we've got Pau Torres out still as well. Hopefully he might be back for Sunday. So that makes it a less of a blow, but it's still a blow because he's sort of playing Konsa at right back and he sort of tucks inside a little bit. So really important, really, because then that just leaves us with Matty Cash. And Cash is good, but he can't play the same role that Konsa plays. So, yeah, it's a bit of a blow, really. So, I don't know. Hopefully he's not out for too long. But, yeah, it's not looking good, really.
I mean, we've to be fair, it's not bad for us. We've only got 8 players missing this week, which is something to be celebrated. Anytime we're in single figures for players out, it's definitely a plus. I mean, from a Chelsea perspective, mate, obviously, we've had 2 awful results, loads of pressure ramping up now about Pochettino's future. If we go out the cup, who knows how long he's going to last, despite all the briefings that are coming out left, right, and centre over the last couple of days since the Wolves defeat. Obviously I was expecting a reaction from the Liverpool game. We didn't get it. Is there any part of you that's sort of maybe a little bit wary, thinking, well, at some point Chelsea are going to have to, show a reaction and maybe put in a decent performance and get a win soon? I mean, is there any part of you that worries that Chelsea might turn up with a vengeance? I mean, there's not really any evidence to suggest that might happen, but How do you feel about this game? Because if I was a Villa fan, I'd be thinking, you know what, this should be not easy, but it should be a relatively straightforward win. But in football, it's weird, isn't it? When a team's struggling and down in the dumps, and up against it, manager's future is on the line. It's weird what can happen sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm commenting on this from an outsider, so I'm looking at the outside picture of Chelsea, and I'm just a bit confused, really, in a sense of, I thought when you were playing Villa the first time, man, your form looked like it had picked up a little bit. You were playing better. You were good against us. And then for it to fall off a cliff sort of against Liverpool, and then the way you lost against Wolves, I'm kind of just thinking, do you know what I mean? Like, surely somewhere that form has got to hit in and it start working. And I just think it's so inconsistent. And, as a fan, it must be so frustrating to watch, really. Last season you had a bad season and you haven't really improved that much this season.
At one point, I think we're 1 point worse off than we were at this stage last season. Yeah, of course, obviously that doesn't lie. Ultimately it's the results-based business. The table doesn't lie. We are seemingly not made any progress. Of course, the football's a bit better. We scoring more goals and whatnot. We've definitely got better attacking wise. We're a lot worse defensively. We've let in 39 goals and we've scored 38 this season. That's poor. You cannot be letting in that many goals. Doesn't matter how much we've improved at the other end. If you're shipping goals like that, that is a disaster. 8 goals in 2 games, in the last 2 games. You cannot carry on like that. And for me, the biggest concern is just the lack of, in-game management from Pochettino. The Wolves game, a prime example. Wolves we're just pinging it over Chilwell for fun, Neto in behind. And they did that all 3 goals they scored come down that left-hand side doing the same thing. And yet not once did Pochettino try and change it. And not once did the players on the pitch think, shit, we're getting exposed like this time and time again. And it's costing us goals. No one reacts to anything. So, yeah, it's, I don't know. I would have expected better, mate. But I just...
What's the camaraderie with the players?
It seems all right, mate, because you get all these videos on socials and that, they do the training videos and it all looks like a happy camp and stuff. But ultimately, you do see some players getting frustrated with each other, but it's not many. Yeah, I get it. It's frustrating as a player when you've lost and you're in a shit run of form or whatever. But a lot of players just go straight down the tunnel after games. Look, a few do go around and clap the fans. I get it. It's frustrating, but it's just a minimum thing, isn't it? Whether you win or lose, you should always thank the fans for turning up and whatnot. So it feels like, despite the United front that's being put on, it feels like there's a lot of fragments splitting in the camp, whether it's at the training ground or whatever's going on. I don't think it's as happy as perhaps is portrayed through the videos and all that. I also just feel
I think everybody sort of understands that you spent all that money. And I think, the big picture of that is that, when you've got sort of a squad, so when Villa say we're in the Championship and we got promoted to the Premier League, we still got a core group of players that had achieved something. There was that bond together. And that's massive in football. It's you look at Man City, they can sell Mahrez, they can sell Gundogan, but they've still got sort of that core group of players like De Bruyne, Rodri, etc. Maybe that's something to do with your performances, because when I was watching you against Wolves and you literally dismantled yourself in the space of 90 minutes. That sort of togetherness just seemed to evaporate, and I think that's, from looking in at your games, I think that might be part of the problem.
Mate, I think you're spot on. In terms of there doesn't seem to be a togetherness. I know a lot of these guys are all new. A lot of them are new, but 7 months in, I'm not expecting a finished article, but you'd expect to see some sort of progress throughout the season. I think arguably we're worse than we were at the start of the season in terms of level of performance. I just think players are not understand. I don't think players are understanding what's being asked of them. We've got too many players that are unreliable, and look, the manager's got major faults for sure, but he's just the tip of the iceberg. Until the the structure changes above them, until you get in a sporting director that knows what they're doing, until you add some quality players that are ready to perform now, this is just going to keep happening. So you can get rid of the manager, but that doesn't fix that barely fixes anything, So for me, it's deep-rooted problems at Chelsea. The manager's got to do better, but the directors who have put this squad together, they've recruited these players. They've decided to go down this route. Like, there's a reason, mate, why you've never seen a squad put together like this in the Premier League before. Because it's stupid. No. It's idiotic. It either doesn't work or it takes 2 or 3 years to get to where you want to be. And the reality is, these guys have come in. They're so fixated on the future that they've just completely forgotten about the present. And yes, we should be doing better. Yes, we should be performing better. This squad right now is good enough, I feel, to be a Europa League level team. But right now, we're a mid-table side. We've got to focus on getting back to being a top 4, top 6 side, and then go from there. We just don't have enough reliable players. That's the reality, and there's no spine in the team. So it makes for difficult reading. It's difficult to watch. It's frustrating. But then at the same time, the very way that this project's been put together, we shouldn't be surprised this is happening. Because when you put a load of new players together, a load of young and experienced players together in probably the most difficult league in the world, this is exactly what you're going to get. So we should have expected this, but it doesn't make it any better. But I just worry for us tomorrow. Like, we could turn up and maybe do something. Pochettino's got a chance now to change the system, make us more defensively solid, potentially go with a back 3. Take that chance. Don't just turn up and do the same as we've been doing, which is not working, and teams are just running through us. I do worry about tomorrow, I'll be honest, mate. Like, we could either turn up and get steamrolled, or we could keep it close. Look, for me, right, there's no shame in losing away at Villa. But same with the last 2 performances. I want us to show up and compete and show some fight and show some desire. And if we compete and we do well, we come up short, that's a lot easier to take than turning up and not doing anything whatsoever. So, yeah, I've got very low expectations for tomorrow. But, I mean, for you, mate, score prediction. Obviously, extra time and penalties are on the cards. Hopefully it doesn't go to that. Could be a long night if it does. Do you fancy yourselves to bounce back and get a win in front of the Villa Park crowd again after the Newcastle game? You think you're going to go through?
I'm sure I called 1-1, didn't I? On the preview.
I think we both went 1-1 on the preview. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got the replay then. Well, for me, I'm a bit like you. Like, our big game for me is on Sunday against United. We've got a chance to go.
Finishing top 4, by the way, mate. Is finishing top 4 more important to you than an FA Cup run as a Villa fan? Would you rather go deep in the cup, 100%. Or would you rather qualify for the? So if because you could win the FA Cup, I'm not saying you would, but would you rather than winning the FA Cup, would you rather come 4th in the league, for example?
Yeah, I mean, like the bigger picture for Villa at the minute is like, our owners have got massive ambitions to get in the Champions League, to be competing on those levels, to be consecutively in that top 4. And for Villa, off the field as well, with our revenue, it's so important for us to get in to the Champions League and generate more money with sponsorships and match day revenue, etc. So it's absolutely huge for us to get top 4. So
you've got the Conference League as well, haven't you? Still, would you say that's more important than the FA Cup, the Conference League and top 4?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I'd probably go Premier League, Conference League, FA Cup. So I just want to put us in a real big, good performance, really, and sort of play well and see what happens. But like you say, it's a difficult game because, you guys are going to want to have a reaction. If you get a reaction, then, you've got some brilliant players and you look really good at times. So I think it's just a difficult game to call, in it. But being as we're at home, I'd probably say 2-1 Villa, maybe.
Yeah, mate. I think we'll lose 3-1 if I'm being brutally honest, and the pressure will ramp up again, and things will probably get a little bit more toxic again. But it's Chelsea. It seems to be what happens at the moment with the club. But mate, thanks for joining me as always. Absolute pleasure. If people want to check out more of what you do, where should they go?
YouTube, Up the Villa Podcast. That's where you can find us.
Yeah, guys, I'll tag it in the title. Make sure you head over there, show the guys some love, some great content over there. So make sure you do that. Smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, guys. We'll catch you again in another one soon. Up the Chelsea.